Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us on this Monday special President's Day edition of Gulfstream today. And we're celebrating President's Day with 12 races on tap. And we were just discussing before we came on, who's your favorite president?
Oh, I think I've got to go with Abraham Lincoln, and I believe that you said the same. So we're here as big supporters of Old Abe.
We are big supporters of Old Abe, and we don't have a race named after him. I think we used to. We used to have the rail splitter.
We do have the Mary Todd, though.
There we go. So at least that's represented.
Got that covered.
well, thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream today, and it's been a big weekend. I've been in Maryland for the past couple of days, but happy to be back. And we were also just discussing, this is a fantastic betting card today.
It really is. 12 races today. Each and every one of them is starter stakes, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for value in today's card, and it is a good chance for these horses that are perhaps running in claiming races to kind of get their just desserts, if you will, and get a chance to run for some overnight stakes purse money today as well.
Absolutely. They are kind of the blue-collar horses of our industry, and it's going to be a great day today. We'll go now to show you some of our featured wagers today. Our wagering menu kicks off in race 1. With that rolling super high 5, of course, you need 7 or more betting interests, and we do get that in today's opener. Race 1 does kick off the 50-cent early pick 5, races 1 through 5. So Acacia will have a ticket for that 50-cent based wager. As we move along on this 12-race program, race 5 kicks off that ever-popular 50-cent middle pick 4. I did have a ticket, or I do have a ticket for that. In the 7th race, the Rainbow 6 does kick off. We have a nice carryover today, over $134,000 for that sequence. It's not easy, but we will show you our ticket later on today. And race 8, of course, kicks off the final pick 5 of the day, that 50-cent based wager. We will go through it all. No need to worry. Hopefully we have some winners today. I heard it was a little bit difficult on Friday, but a pretty formful day on Saturday. You guys having a good day on Saturday.
It is. Friday, of course, was Beat the Expert Day, so Ron struggling through Beat the Expert Day like each and every one of us does. But Saturday was pretty fun. And yesterday we had a couple big bombers in the Rainbow 6 sequence, so actually nobody had 6 out of 6, so that does give that nice carryover in today's card.
We could have some bombers on today's card as well. We are fast and firm on the turf with a noon first post time as we get to today's opener. 1 mile and a 16th on the main track for the Rough and Ready Stakes. And Acacia, this does, of course, kick off the early pick 5. Let's take a look at your ticket.
Okay, and kind of keeping with that theme of what we were talking about, trying to find some value, I'm going to use 4 horses to kick things off in here. These are some horses. A lot of them faced each other in the Claiming Crown Iron Horse or in the Emerald even, so we'll see a little bit of a rematch in here today. Then 3 in the next, just 2 in the 3rd with Bon Air and Arcanesley Doll, and then I'm going to single Shaft of Light in the 4th race in the Trust Buster. I believe that all 3 of us picked that horse, so it does have some weight to carry. And then 4 deep in the last leg in the American Fabius. So $48 for me today.
I like it, and we started off here with this first race, and I thought maybe it kind of difficult to kind of see who's going to come out of the Iron Horse and improve, whether or not a horse is going to turn the tables on each other. But we will go back to that particular spotlight on in the Iron Horse, where Chepstow was a really tenacious winner.
And we're going to start out by highlighting Chepstow and Good Time Had by All. Good Time Had by All was the 14 and Chepstow to the rail. So I wanted to show the difference between the two of them. And they're both speed types. Now you can see Chepstow really intent on the lead on the rail, and Good Time Had by All crossing over from the 14 post that day. He's drawn in post 3 today, and he was beaten just by half a length. Now we'll see Chiseled coming up behind the two of them, who from those bookend post positions are just dueling it out on the front end. Chiseled kind of a best of the rest. We will see him in here today, I believe, that both of us did end up picking against Chiseled once again today. Chepstow did get the nod that day along the rail, but I thought it was a pretty game performance from both horses.
It was, considering that the fact that the other horse had to kind of break from the outside post position. Good Time Had by All, and you could see, unfortunately, he was wide going into that first turn. But Chepstow, don't take anything away from his his performance in that race, because he was, yes, down on the rail, but he kind of brushed off some of his competitors and was really tenacious on the inside and would not give in. He's a proven local commodity. He's a horse that likes this distance, a 4-time winner out of 8 starts. And I guess the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what happened to Good Time Had by All last time out, his first race out of the Iron Horse?
It was a pretty disappointing performance. He was actually bet way down off of that good race in the Iron Horse, 50 cents to the dollar. He showed some speed, and then he was pretty much just done. And you can see in the running lines that it really did set up for closers. Papa Pig, the winner of that race, comes from the sky. Cold Blood, excuse me, usually sits just off the pace. So maybe that's just kind of what it was, but we didn't really see any sort of follow through from Good Time Had by All. But Luis Saez climbs aboard today, and so I'm being a little bit more forgiving of him. But I actually went to the inside with a horse that I liked in the Iron Horse, but just absolutely refused to break, and that is Racetrack Romance. And last time out did actually show some speed, but I think that this horse is a bit more versatile and can come from a bit off of it as well.
And this is a horse who, I think the rail post position is kind of a concern just because he's on the rail. We have Chepstow immediately to his outside, and he has won from the rail before, but that was when he sent from the inside, and I just don't think that he's going to be naturally the fastest. So I wonder what the strategy would be for Nick Juarez today, but he's definitely a class if he decides to break today. The 5, Rich Daddy, though, you know, he was just okay in the Iron Horse, really nothing to write home about, but we see Victor Barboza Jr., and I'll show you the stat here with horses coming off of these types of layoffs on the dirt. He's 22% and a positive ROI of $2.17. He finishes in the money 70% of the time, and given the amount of pace, I was thinking maybe Racetrack Romance might send from the rail. Chepstow could press. Good Time Had by All is fast. I think it could set up a little bit better for Rich Daddy today.
And if that's what happens, then that'll definitely be Rich Daddy sitting in the catbird seat, closing from off of it. We kind of saw Chiseled in the Iron Horse trying to do that, but not really being able to make any sort of considerable ground up on the top 2. But I used all 4 of those horses in the first leg of the pick 5 because it really will depend on how the pace shakes out.
And Rich Daddy won this race last year. He's already a rough and ready winner, so we'll see if history repeats itself.
Do I have to defend his title?
Exactly. In the second running here, as we get to the second race on the card, a mile and a 16th onto the turf course, the Old Man Eloquent here, and K-Mac is 8-5 morning line favorite. And this is a horse who I think you have to pay attention to, you respect. We'll go back and show you his last performance. He was the beaten favorite, but he didn't have the easiest of trips.
He didn't, yet again. And he was beaten by Keystone for victory, a horse that's just been in excellent form. He did, of course, win the Claiming Crown Emerald, and he got the win yet again today. But K-Mac on the outside, very wide in the stretch. Indian Guide is also in this race, and he's the number 5 in here today, who will add the blinkers back on for Safi Joseph Jr. He's along the rail, but K-Mac closing very strongly on the outside. So, of course, you have to respect him. Though, as you said, he was the beaten favorite, but it was behind Keystone for victory.
And it just looked like he's kind of a grinder. It was trying to pick up momentum coming down the stretch, and it took Julien Leparoux a little bit of time to get his momentum going, and by that time he just kind of ran out of real estate, unfortunately. So he's won, but I think you and I are both proceeding with a little bit of caution. You decide to beat him perhaps with the number 6, Ere Bueno, for Chuck Simon.
And I'm trying to get this horse home again. 2 starts back in the Claiming Crown Emerald, he was drawn way to the outside, and he's not a naturally fast out of the gate horse. He likes to sit in a nice stalking position, and he was in such good form, and he actually really still has been in good form. I think his past couple races perhaps have dirtied him up a little bit on paper, and that may be a good standpoint as far as value goes and perhaps getting a better price on him. He was the favorite last time out, but he was beaten by a horse in Class and Cash, who I think was perhaps just the class of the field and just a better horse on that day. And I like him stretching out to the mile and a 16th here, too. He's a 7-time winner at this distance. He's a real hard-knocking type, so I'm going to give him one more try to sit just behind the pace today.
He very well could win this. I used him 4th, but the 1, Rapscallion, was a horse I wanted to take a shot with. Joel Rosario back in the saddle today. This will be this horse's 2nd start off of the layoff, and I thought he ran a huge race last time out. We saw Siding Spring come back to win a 2 other than allowance on Saturday, and actually getting a 94 lower by your speed figure for that victory. So it was very impressive. And we also saw My Point Exactly, a horse who finished kind of in the bottom half of the field, come back to win, getting an 88 by her speed figure. So from top to bottom, several horses came out of that race to improve, and I think it could be the same case with Rapscallion.
The only question I have about him here is the distance. He's stretching out to the mile and a 16th. He is 0 for 3 here, but I definitely respect him. I think he ran huge last time, in the kind of company that he was keeping. Siding Spring was the odds of more than 20-1 on Saturday and ran an absolutely fantastic race. So he just certainly might be a horse that, since being claimed by Robert Falcone Jr., is moving in the right direction.
And that was my concern as well, was the distance. Hopefully they can just reserve some energy from that rail post position as we take a look at the third race, 7 furlongs onto the main track. And the 3 are Kinsley Doll, 9 to 5 on the morning line for Ralph Zaidi. Is a horse that I think you do have to use, but last time out was a little bit disappointing at 9 to 1. I do think that this is kind of a better class level for her, and judging by the whole big picture of the race, she could even be the lone speed in here.
She could, and if she is, then that's definitely going to be to her advantage. And I respect her. I used her in second, but after those last 2 races, I kind of had to take a little bit of, of a wait and see approach with her. She was in very good form over the summer. She won 2 legs of the Florida Sire Stakes. One was on a wet fast track, and then she actually fared okay even in the Meadow Star on the sloppy track. But last time out, she was very disappointing, as you mentioned, but she was running against some really quality horses in the likes of Moment of Delight, who did win a stake on Saturday in the White Pearl, and you bought her. So I think that you have to maybe be a little bit forgiving of her. Paco Lopez had a fantastic weekend and has been having a fantastic meet. So I think that you have to respect her, but I'm kind of proceeding with a little bit of hesitation.
And we go to the 1 Bon Air to try to beat her for trainer Joe Sharp. She is a winner at 7 furlongs, a good performance last time out against 2 other than Allowance Company. And if you kind of home in on that last race and you kind of watch the replay, the winner of the race, she saved ground really every step of the way, and it kind of looked like the better part of the track to be on for that entire day, whereas she was kind of wide and she was a little far back than usual, but I could see her sitting a bit closer to the pace with the rail post today.
And since being claimed moving into the barn of Joe Sharp, you throw out the turf race, her 2 dirt races at the 7/8 have been very good. One of them was a win, and one was that third last time out. Ola Charlotte's definitely a speed type, and Distinta ran huge on Saturday in the White Pearl as well. So I think she's been keeping some good company in quality races.
And the 4 Miss Will be a horse that we threw on. Trouble trip last time out. I think she might be a little sneaky in here if she gets a better trip. I just can't believe that she's gone that bad looking at her last race. So maybe she can recover from that poor start last time out. As we take a look at the 4th race, the Trust Buster, 7 furlongs on the main track. And again, another heavy favorite with the 1 Shaft of Blight, 3 to 5 on the morning line. And you and I don't necessarily try to beat this particular favorite.
I did not. And last time out, I think that he was compromised a little bit in that race. And there was so much speed last time. And he didn't actually really go like we thought he might have. And there was still speed up front. Delta Bluesman is a speed type. It really set up for the closing Squadron A for Dale Romans. Plus, it was in grade 3 company in the Mr. Prospector. And this was kind of the other Jorge Navarro horse, if you will. But you go back to his race in the Rapid Transit, and there was absolutely no beating Shaft of Light in there. And he won by 6 3/4 lengths, got a 101 buyer speed figure for the performance. So I think you can be forgiving of that last race. And he's going to be a short price, but as we said, with those multi-race sequences, favorites are your friends sometimes.
And I think his race in the Rapid Transit might have taken a little bit of wind out of his sails just because he came back, and I know Jorge Navarro was expecting him to go with the other speed type in that race and maybe take Delta Bluesman off of the pace and kind of decide to close. But this horse didn't break at all. He was just kind of lethargic coming out of the gate, and he does seem like a need the lead type of horse. So hopefully he's been freshened since the 1st of January. It looks like adequate time here. We see horses coming off of this type of freshening for Jorge Navarro do exceptionally well. So rail post position, 7 furlongs. He looks like the lone speed in here. But if that's not the case, perhaps the 4 JB Quick could be forwardly placed and sitting right off of him. And I think since the claim, first off the claim when he was an open length winner, a lot of people were thinking, all right, well, was that a legitimate performance? But I think his last 2 races have really legitimized that race.
It has, and I don't know if he's going to win by 11 lengths anytime soon against this particular field, but really he stepped up off the claim and he just blew the field away that day. And he ran, he was kind of, I think, over his head at that time in the Claiming Crown Express, and just kind of what you were saying, after 2 open length victories, maybe he regressed a little bit, but then his last couple of races, he's been very strong, and I do think he can sit a nice trip, pressing the pace in here, and last time out he was floated pretty wide as well, so it looks like he's coming in pretty solid form.
And sometimes when I handicap these races, I look at the one, Shaft of Light, and I'm thinking, okay, well, he's definitely going to be on the lead, but if he breaks slowly and say JB Quick presses him, and they both kind of kill each other on the front end in terms of pace, it could set up for a deep closer in terms of exotics, and that's why I really like using a horse like the 7 Aces for John. You know you're going to get a good price. This horse is only 3 for 32. He's 0 for 10 at this distance. I'm not saying he's going to win, but sometimes really fast horses at 7 furlongs, they don't always show up. So I did use him at a big price for the exacta, but Shaft of Light does look like the very competitive horse in there as we get to the 5th race, American Fabius, on the main track at 7 furlongs. This does kick off that popular middle pick 4, so I wanted to construct a ticket and show you here, keeping it on a minimum bankroll at $48. We're going to be using 3 horses here with the 3, 4, and the 5. I thought races 6 and 7, you wanted to have some coverage, so using 4 horses deep in that, and then capping it off with the Miss Presidentress, and just using the 4 Graces Drama and the 9 Queen del Valet. I think those 2 horses look to be pretty legitimate in there. So the 5th race starts us off at 7 furlongs here, and I believe we might have landed on the same horse, but we'll go back to, no, we didn't flip-flop in exacta, but we go to the 5 In Some Money. 2 starts back on the 15th of December.
And this was his last start on the dirt. They tried the turf last time, which he actually ran okay. He was 4th, but he's got quite a bit of speed, and we'll show his performance here when he did win, and he was won just a neck ahead of Barry Caravan Betts. He had something in reserve, and I thought he was so game in this race. Now, Barry Caravan Betts came back and ran a very good second in the Just One More stake behind Third Day for Todd Fletcher. So I think that definitely even flatters In Some Money even more. As I said, trying the turf last time, and he kind of chased the pace a bit last time out. I didn't love him on the turf in that race. Now they go back to the dirt. It looks like this is the right spot for him. There's just a lot of other potential speed in this race, but if he can even find something in reserve like he did that day, or even press the pace a little bit, then he definitely could be the one. He definitely looks to be one of the stronger contenders.
I do think he could prove to be a little bit more versatile. Just seeing him in the paddock for his past couple of starts, he doesn't look like he's at 100% in terms of maturity. So I think with more seasoning, he's going to get better, and probably that's why he shows so much gate speed, is he's kind of trying to run away from the rest of the field. But hopefully he can settle here today, and we'll show a stat for trainer Ralph Nix. Taking his horses from turf to dirt at sprint distances, he is 26% out of 70 horses, 59% in the money, and a positive ROI of $2.70. So it's a strong angle for Ralph Nix. His horse is proven on the main track. He's proven that he can beat a horse that comes back to face Stakes Company and do well. So that's who I landed on. But for my friend, for Larry Pilati, he looks very good too, and he fits the bill, as you mentioned, kind of stalking or closing.
And that's why I liked him in here. I would by no means leave off In Some Money, but I think that my friend can sit a nice stalking trip. Jose Lascano going to be in the saddle, and he actually ran very well in the synthetic at the OBS Sprint last time out, trying some Stakes Company, stalking the pace. He finished a respectable 2nd, and his race 2 starts back, I think that he was just outclassed in there. He was running against the likes of Classic Rock and Beasley, who have really turned out to be 2 very quality runners at that level. And then before that, it was the Slop and the Smooth Air. So I think that you can perhaps kind of look at some of his races, get some, see that he does have the ability to stalk or to rate a little bit, and tactically it looks like he is moving in the right direction. Jose Lascano rode him last time as well.
And that's where I wasn't 100% sure, so that's why I used him on the pick 4, and this is why I picked him in second, because I wasn't sure if he was extremely outclassed in his race at 7 furlongs, or if he just doesn't really like the distance, because he looked like he was heading in the wrong direction. So, but I wasn't sure, so I'm going to use him protectively. The 3 Mo Cash, though, could get bet off of his maiden score last time out. He was a 9-length winner. My question is, how strong was the race? We had a Brian Lynch class dropper in there that took a lot of money. He didn't fire in there as well. And can he kind of build upon that performance and face winners for the first time?
Well, it really was just an explosive maiden win. He won by 9 lengths to going 5.5 furlongs, so he's stretching out a bit here for the first time. Tyler Gaffalione stays up, so I definitely expect him to take some attention, but I think he's got to prove himself to me one more time. He did win at odds of 7-1 in his debut.
Let's take a look at the 6th race on the card, 7.5 furlongs onto the turf, and we don't have anything in here, but I actually had kind of a tough time with this race. I wanted to pick Grey Dude. I didn't necessarily trust him. I don't really trust No Phone Joe. I landed on the 2 Francisco Flyer. We'll get to him in a second, but Grey Dude is clearly the horse to beat off of 2 victories in his past 2 starts.
It is, and I kind of... It's interesting that you say that, because I kind of had the same thing, and I actually did land a little bit on Grey Dude as a default. I looked at him and said, okay, on paper, this is immediately the horse that jumps off the page and is kind of the horse to beat. And I tried to look and see if I could beat him. And the horses that I potentially thought to beat him would be the 6 Fast and Accurate or the number 2 Francesco Flyer. Now, Francesco Flyer, you have to respect him off his last 2 races as well. But Jane Sibeli, first off the claim with winners last time out. She's just 3 for 23 and a negative ROI of 71 cents. So that's why I kind of took a little bit of the wait and see with that horse, though he did earn a 74 buyer last time out. So Grey Dude, since being claimed for Larry Ravelli, since trying the turf, he's been undefeated in his last 2. And it's a big asking to ask him to get another one, but trying to see if he can go 3 in a row.
He did. I don't know if he's just that agile that he continuously works out these beautiful trips, but last time out he did get a beautiful trip under Tyler Gaffalione, and even he did get into a little bit of trouble when he faced maiden winners, but he just finds himself in the right place at the right time, and that's really what you want on the turf, especially at this distance. So by no means do I think that this is a horse that is vulnerable. I'm just interested in the 2 Francesco Flyer, first off the claim for Jane Sibeli, and look, I saw the same stats you did. First off the claim on the turf in the past 2 years. She's only 4 for 27 or 24 and a negative ROI, so I didn't want to show that stat. But this horse looks like he put in a really nice workout first off the claim. Best of 24 that day up at Palm Meadows, 48-3 for 4 furlongs, and he's not impossible in this field, even off of his back races.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't leave him off those multis, and that workout that you mentioned at Palm Meadows was also on the Palm Meadows turf course, so it does look like he's really been working well fitness-wise. I mentioned the number 6 Fast and Accurate, who's trying the turf for the first time for trainer Mike Maker, but added the Lasix last time out. It was a really good race on the synthetic at Turfway. A maiden claiming company, yes, but there were 3 next out winners coming out of that, and he did show some speed. The dam was all a turf horse as well, and for what it's worth, Mike Maker going from synthetic to turf with winners last time out is 27% win, 50% in the money, though it is a negative ROI, but he does do well with that surface transition.
And if you get 8-1 on a horse like this,
Yeah.
I think you must go towards Fast and Accurate. But the question is, okay, why did he respond so well? Because he went from running kind of 27 buyer speed figures, 39 in his debut, to that 68 and an explosive victory. Was it the Lasix? Was it the addition of distance? He did start off sprinting in his career. Was it the synthetic? There's a whole bunch going on here, and that's why I think that you will get a good price. But never leave Mike Maker and Julian Leveroux off your tickets at your own peril.
Absolutely.
There, especially on the turf. That is races 1 through 6. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the 20-cent Rainbow 6 and the late pick 5. There's still more to come right after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Now looking at the latter half of our 12-race program, we do start things off in race 7 with that 20-cent Rainbow 6. We have a nice carryover, over $134,000 in that carryover today. And we'll show you my Rainbow 6 sequence here. I did single, but am I confident on the single? Probably not, but if I didn't find a single, it would make things pretty pricey. So my single will be the number 1 Sir Sebastian in race 10. Going to be using 4 horses to start things off in race 7, just 2 in the 8th, 3, 4, 9 in the 9th, and then capping it off with 3 horses deep in the final 2 legs of the sequence. 43.20, that's a Ron Nicoletti ticket.
It is. I like it. You're starting to move a little bit in that Rainbow 6 format.
Do I want to be more like Ron Nicoletti?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's the question of the day. Well, we'll answer that later as we tackle race 7, the Mary Todd, a mile and a 16th onto the turf. And we'll go back and show you a video spotlight replay of Morabe. This was 2 starts back in the Claiming Crown Tiara. Of course, Lobelia came back out to win that race, and Seeking Treasure in good form too.
And what I wanted to show about the break is that she was pretty rank at the start. She was hard to settle. She had her head up in the air, and then she ended up very far back from the rest of the field. You mentioned Lobelia closing from way off of it as well. She came back to win an allowance with an 81 buyer speed figure. Next time out, she's the gray at the back. And then we'll show in the stretch how Morabe, the number 7 there, is still far back, and she closes really strongly on the outside. Now, there are a couple other horses in this field that she'll face again today. Be Playful, the number 10, and Seeking Treasure, the number 13, perhaps had slightly easier trips. I thought Seeking Treasure had some nice run at the end, the number 13, but then Morabe was closing really strong, and there's Lobelia on the outside too. So I think now definitely one to respect. They tried the dirt with her last time, like her back on the turf.
I do too. She did not look comfortable whatsoever. But when you're in the mid-Atlantic during the winter, sometimes you have to try and see if they will like the dirt. But she clearly doesn't. She comes back to the turf, and that was a huge win considering the pace that was in front of them. I thought a big race from Lobelia, the second-place finisher. Yes, we saw these 2 fillies close from off of the pace, but they went slowly in front of them. They went 25 and change, 51 and change. That's slow on the turf course here. So good performance from her. And I think it's encouraging that we've seen Seeking Treasure step up to stakes company, graded stakes company, and still hold form.
She has. Sure, her last win was in April of 2016, so she hasn't been to the winner's circle in a while, but she has been keeping some really good company. She was 3rd last time out behind Somersault and XCE, 2 very nice mares. So she's definitely, I think, one to respect. I used her a little bit towards the bottom of my ticket, as did you, but I did land on Quiet Kitten on top, and I know that there's some reservations about her. By no means would I single her in here. She was a huge price last time out and managed to get 4th behind the likes of Arles and Suffused in very competitive company in the grade 3 La Prevoyante, but that was off a layoff, so there is a question if she'll move forward after that.
There is a question. We'll show a stat here just because I thought that this filly will be bet off of her last performance and her back class. Remember, she was in the Marsha's River last year, the Orchid, the very one, so she will get bet off of her back numbers. Now, second off the layoff, going a distance of ground on the turf over the past 2 years. I wanted to do 5 years, but it was like 200 horses, and it was still a similar stat, so you get the picture. 3 for 57, 5%, and a negative ROI. So not always the strongest statistic here for Dale Romans, but do take note, Dale Romans has had a tremendous meet here in South Florida, 21% so far at the meet. I went to the 4 Royal Julie, and this could work out, it could not work out. Sometimes I look at a race and I'm trying to handicap pace, and it does work out. Sometimes it's nothing than what I predicted, but I like the fact that Paco Lopez is aboard the 4 here today, and she has speed, and I'm thinking she could have the tactical advantage and maybe being the lone speed. I know Quiet Kitten does have some back numbers or back races where she has been close, but I don't really see anybody with equivalent speed, so we could see Paco Lopez kind of milk things on the front end and go wire to wire.
That definitely could be the way that things shake up. Quiet Kitten does have some back speed, but who knows if she'll show the same kind of speed today. She did sit a stalking trip last time out, and Royal Julie, I don't think anybody has the same sort of legitimate speed that she does, so I definitely think that she's one to respect as well.
That is the 7th race to start the 20-cent Rainbow Six. We get to the 8th race on the card. Of course, this kicks off the 50-cent late pick 5. Acacia, walk us through your ticket.
All right, we'll give you a look at my ticket. I actually have the same single that you do. I'm going to be keying off Sir Sebastian as well, so hopefully that horse does show up today, but using 3 deep to start things off. 3 in the next as well, keying off Sir Sebastian in the Sage of Monticello, and then pretty much pressing the all button in the race 11, going 5 deep in there. I used a single, so it was still affordable, and then just 2 deep in the last for $45.
All right, we get to the Miss Presidentress here, 7.5 furlongs onto the turf, and we look to the field, and I thought not much separated this field, so you could probably get some value on a horse if you really like them. The 6th Lady Lieutenant could be one of them for Rusty Arnold.
And I like this horse because she was in an awkward chasing position last time out, was kind of in the same spot throughout the whole race. She was really only passed by one horse in the stretch, but India Mantuana was the speed. That horse has been in excellent form lately. Accepting sat right behind her, and it was a tough asking for her first start against winners. I thought she broke her maiden very impressively, so giving her another bit of a try today.
And I like her as well. I was debating whether or not putting her in my top 4 because I took a long, hard look at her. Javier Castellano in the saddle. She's in form. She could get bet off of that. She, I thought, managed to sit a closer trip to the pace 2 starts back, and it looks like that's where she prefers. But there's a lot of speed in here, and I just don't know if tactically that's going to shake out for her today. So I did go to the 4 Grace's Drama, who shows that she can close from off of the pace. First time for Ralph Nix last time out. We've seen this kind of barn switch with some of these horses for Ralph Nix, especially on the turf, be very successful. And I don't think that was a fluke last time out. She looked fantastic. She ran fantastic. She was so much the best that race that I think she could build upon that to face this group today. But she has been exposed against Maiden Claiming Company for several starts prior. I just think that she's starting to round into form.
She definitely could, and in the first off of the trainer switch, she made a lateral move in class. She stayed at the maiden 25 level, and she won by open length. So it's, as you say, sometimes it's just kind of how she did it, and she did it very impressively. It did look like she took a step forward, but a horse that we definitely should mention is the number 9, Queen del Valet, who's really just been in an exceptional form since being claimed for trainer Reed Nagel and since trying the turf. She started out going the 5 furlongs, and then there was question as to whether she got the distance. She definitely did. 2 starts back, she was beaten, but it was 4th by just half a length, and it was as the favorite, and she backed that up with a nice win last time. She does have some stalking ability.
She's very versatile. I love horses like this that can sprint at 5/8, and they can also go 2 turns on the turf. So she is one, and she can win on the lead. She can also win stalking, so that's a feather in her cap too. That's why I felt confidently in just using 2 horses in this race. I think the 10 Grace Appeal on the stretch out and distance will be the speed in here, and we'll see if all the other horses who want to be forwardly placed might just be on the chase. So I wanted to use the 10, leaving her out though, because that question whether or not she'll get the 2 turns. We'll turn to the 9th race, the Ladybird Stakes on the main track at 7 furlongs, and we have a couple horses who have seen each other before. One of them, the 9, Too Clever by Half, off of a defeat last time out behind Concealed with a Kiss.
These 2 have kind of knocked heads quite a bit in their past few races. Last time out, Concealed with a Kiss got a win. 2 starts back, Too Clever by Half was the winner, and Concealed with a Kiss was in second. Now, I gave a little bit of a nod to Too Clever by Half to be in second today over Concealed with a Kiss, as did you do. Both of them are pretty speedy types in here, so that's why I landed to winning for Sarah, who definitely has some back class and looks like she's kind of getting back into form. She was 3rd last time behind these 2 horses, so she does have to take a step forward and hopefully run up to some of her stronger back races, but giving her another bit of a try to come from a bit behind today.
And you know, she really didn't have a fluid trip last time out. It wasn't that it was awful, but it wasn't easy anyway. So she draws the rail post position. She could get that good setup. And Too Clever by Half, she actually ran a very good race last time out because in my opinion, I think she's a better 5/8 type of horse, or even 6 furlongs. When she goes more distance, say 7 furlongs or the mile, she kind of needs the lead. So the fact that she hung in there to finish second, despite the fact that she was chasing, I thought it was still a good performance. So I'm respecting her off of that last race, but I kind of want a new face in the 4 Call Her Karma, and I'm just trying to look at her last race as a lesson learned, because I looked at her for so long and I was thinking, you know what, those Fort Erie races, they weren't that good at all, and I don't think she can transfer that form here to South Florida, and boy did she prove me wrong last time out against Open 6250 Company. She does have to step up in class, but I think she might have left a little left in the tank last time out.
And she will need to. She does have to step up. Some of the horses in here have been facing much tougher company, winning for Sarah, even trying Grade 3 Company in the Sugar Swirl. So she has to step up. She won by 3.5 lengths last time, and I think that perhaps now she's got a race under her belt here at Gulfstream. So she's 1 for 1 over this track, and Paco Lopez going to be in the saddle.
And sometimes you look at all these races with all these horses, and they're beating each other and winning against each other, and I'm just thinking, well, you know what?
Sometimes you want
a
somebody
new
out
face,
of it.
a fresh face sounds
Exactly.
nice right about now. As we get to the 10th race on the card, it does kick off our final pick 3 of the day. The Sage of Monticello, we go to the turf at 7.5 furlongs onto the turf, and this is where your single and my single comes into play, and that is the one, Sir Sebastian.
Sir Sebastian has won his last 2 races. Now, he's kind of an interesting horse because he started out in maiden special weight, dropped immediately to the maiden 25, and then he finished a really good second when he tried the turf, but then he was disqualified, then he had an off track, so it was like he's had this really weird journey, but his last 2 races on the turf have been wins. One of them, he set the pace and then kind of rebroke and ran away from everybody, and last time, he closed 3 wide, driving from nowhere, so he showed some versatility. I don't know what he's going to do today.
I don't know either, but I do know that he is in great form on the turf, and that's why I like him. And you kind of looked at the last race, and it looked like the pace might have been crumbling a little bit in front of him, and he made the first move into that. There was a horse that was closing from behind him, Erasmo's Dream. We saw made a little bit of a more patient move, and he couldn't catch him. So I thought it was a tenacious performance by him, and the 3 Erasmo's Dream will take money because Javier Castellano decides to stay aboard. He was just beaten a nose behind Francesco Flyer last time out, but we'll show you here Armando de la Cerda, a stat with on the turf going from routes to sprints. Now, mind you, this is still a 2-turn sprint, but it is only 2 for 21, 10% and a negative ROI. So I thought this horse might have been a little bit vulnerable, but I think you and I, at least I saw the race as such that I really like Sir Sebastian. If you don't use Sir Sebastian, you'd find yourself having to use the 1, 3, and the 7.
That's exactly what I thought in trying to pare down those tickets. The comment for Erasmo's Dream last time is that he hung. I don't think that was really the case. I think that he kind of had to weave through horses, and it was actually a pretty solid performance. But I agree. I think that you have to respect the number 7, General Mugubi. You also have to respect the 8, Giant's Voice, who was drawn to the outside in his last 2 races and somehow managed to finish 3rd and 2nd last time, albeit at the maiden 25 level for Todd.
In hindsight, I probably would have felt confidently in just using the 1 and the 8 in here if I wasn't going to single on Sir Sebastian. But hindsight, well,
it's
we
2020.
learned. Yeah, we learned from it, and I picked him 4th here today. But that is the 10th race on the card as we want to take a look at the 11th, the Old Hickory, a mile and a 16th onto the main track. The one Flashy Jewel, even money on the morning line, coming out of a 2 other than allowance optional claiming race last time out. What do you do with a horse like this? At even money on morning line.
Even money is a bit hard for me to take. Now, this horse has some speed. I imagine that he'll definitely be bet because he finished 2nd last time behind Greenpoint Crusader, coming off of that big layoff for Todd Pletcher and ahead of Scarly Charlie. And Scarly Charlie didn't really show up too much in his next race out, so I'm taking a little bit of a wait and see with Flashy Jewel, especially if it's at such a short price. I thought there was a lot of speed in this race, and it's a mile and a 16th race, so it is kind of interesting to see who actually will go to the front and if anybody will take back. But I went to Starship Zeus, who really did actually put in a good performance last time out and could be closing from off of it. Joel Rosario climbs in the saddle, which I do like in here. And last time out was a very funky race with Fremento actually winning the race. There was some bumping a little bit further down, so he did move up from 5th to 4th.
And as you said, there does seem to be a lot of pace, and that's why I was against the one Flashy Jewel, because he really has no other option, especially at a mile and a 16th, but to go. And I don't really think that he's his best going 2 turns on the dirt. So he could get pressure from Diamond Bachelor. He could get pressure from For Goodness Sake towards the outside. So I too wanted a horse with a little bit of tactical speed, and that was the 2 We're All Set. He definitely doesn't need the lead. Some of his better races or even his sprint races have come when he's closed from off of the pace, and maybe he is a better horse with less distance, but I do think that if they take him back from off of the pace, give him a patient ride, it could just all unfold in front of him.
And that was my biggest concern with him. I think that he's much better shorter. If you remember, I used 5 horses in here in the pick 5 sequence. He's 0 for 4 at the mile and a 16th. I like him better going 7/8. Or even a mile, he's actually pretty solid. But his last 2 races were at 9 furlongs, so maybe he just tactically will get the benefit today.
I'm guessing you used 5 horses and did not use Joshua's comprise.
I took a pass on 2 for 57 today.
I think that's a good call as we get to the 12th and final race today, the Little Magician at a mile onto the turf. One of my favorite names here,
me too.
The Little Magician. We scratched the 5 favorite air in today's finale, and I like a horse just because I'll get to him in a second. The 11 Not Today is the horse that he definitely has been in such good form. He's a horse that I think is very competitive in here. Just a tough post.
It's a really tough post for this mile turf race. It's short going into the first turn, and I know that that's a big asking for him. I just was kind of looking at my other options in this finale in here, and maybe you will get somebody like Cut to Order perhaps coming back into form. He used to show quite a bit of speed, but not today. Has really just been in good form so far in his past couple of races. He was drawn more towards the outside a couple starts back, 8 of 12, and he was way behind the field, came rolling and got the win by just a nose. Last time he won by 6, drawn 7 of 9. So I don't know. I think he'll be behind anyway, so I'm hoping that that doesn't hinder him too much.
I think Cut to Order will be stalking today. He's not going to be closing. He's not going to be as slow as we've seen him in the past couple of starts. And I remember speaking to Armando de la Cerda prior to his last race, and he said that they really wanted to get aggressive with this horse and try to be a bit closer to the lead. And he just got so bumped at the break. He was caught off stride. He was all over the place. And unfortunately, he broke last and he stayed last. And in that position, when you're the rider at Masiel Jaramillo, you don't want to rush a horse up from there. But despite being taken out of his element, he ran a huge race closing from off of it. He was kind of weaving in and out of horses, and I thought visually a very strong race from Cut to Order. But with all the pace in here, I hope he doesn't make the lead, because there are a couple of kind of need the lead types of horses. I don't think that's him, but I can foresee him maybe sitting a stalking trip. So I'm going to give him one more shot. I've liked him for the past 2 starts, and at 8-1, I can't pass him up today. But one of the speeds we were mentioning was the 8 JoJo's Dream. He does seem like he wants to be the closer the better for him.
Definitely, and he's 3 for 7. He's kind of more of a lightly raced horse in this field. You'll also see speed from For All the Marbles. I think that there's some speed and then stop from Weeza Gone Gray, so it could set up for somebody to be closing from way off of it like my horse, or maybe if your horse does kind of get out a little bit sharper today and sit just behind the pace, it does look like there'll be some hot speed in the finale.
Well, this is a great betting card, and you have plenty of bets to make. We've got the super high 5, the early pick 5, late pick 5, the middle pick 4, and of course that rainbow 6. That's very popular, carryover of $134,000 here today. So we hope you join us here at Gulfstream Park. We're going to step aside, and Pete Ayala will be up next with those scratches and changes. Good luck.
We have to take care of these horses that, give us so much joy.
Being a